There is something about Christmas in 1970s America that people who lived through it cannot forget. The smell of real pine trees in the living room, the anticipation of circling toys in the Sears catalog, the glow of those big, colorful bulbs wrapped around the house. If you celebrated Christmas in that decade, you know exactly what made those holidays feel magical in a way that seems impossible to recreate today. This was a time when America was finding its footing after Vietnam and Watergate. The economy was struggling with inflation and gas lines. Disco was playing on the radio, and families were gathering around console televisions to watch holiday specials together. Christmas in the 1970s became an anchor of normalcy during uncertain times, a reminder that some traditions remained constant even when everything else seemed to be changing. This was the decade that gave us Star Wars action figures under the tree, Charlie Brown Christmas specials that became annual traditions, and shopping malls that transformed into winter wonderlands. The commercialization of Christmas was accelerating, but the holiday still felt personal and homemade in ways that would fade in later decades. Let us walk through what Christmas actually felt like during that unforgettable decade. Some of this may bring back memories of waking up before dawn to see what Santa brought. Some of it may explain why people still chase the feeling of those 1970s holidays. Let us step into that world. Decorating for Christmas in the 1970s was a family event that started the day after Thanksgiving. The artificial aluminum trees that had been popular in the 1960s were fading from fashion. Real trees were back, and families would pile into the station wagon and drive to tree lots or cut their own at Christmas tree farms. The smell of fresh pine filling the living room was essential to the holiday experience. The lights were different than today. Large C9 bulbs in red, green, blue, orange, and white. These bulbs got hot to the touch and burned out regularly. Replacing dead bulbs was a constant chore throughout December. Families would string these lights around the tree, along the roof line, and in bushes outside. The warm glow of these oversized bulbs gave neighborhoods a distinctive look that modern LED lights cannot replicate. Tinsel was everywhere. Silver strands of icicles draped over every branch. Some families threw it on in clumps. Others placed each strand individually for a more elegant look. The tinsel would end up everywhere by Christmas morning, tracked through the house on socks and stuck to wrapping paper. Ornaments told family stories. Glass balls from Germany that grandparents had brought over. Handmade ornaments from school art projects. The angel or star on top of the tree. These ornaments came out of boxes once a year, each one triggering memories of Christmases past. Inside the home, the aesthetic matched the decade. Harvest gold and avocado green decorations blended with the existing kitchen colors. Ceramic Christmas trees with tiny colored bulbs that plugged in sat on side tables. Nativity scenes were displayed prominently. Stockings hung from the mantel, often handmade and personalized with names in glitter or felt letters. The shopping experience for Christmas in the 1970s was completely different from today. There was no internet, no online ordering, no next day delivery. Shopping meant going to stores, and the stores meant the mall. Shopping malls in the 1970s became Christmas destinations. Department stores like Sears, JCPenney, Montgomery Ward, and regional chains anchored these malls. They transformed into magical spaces in December with elaborate window displays, Santa's villages, and Christmas music playing constantly. Families would dress up to go Christmas shopping. It was an event, not just an errand. The Sears Wish Book and JCPenney Christmas catalog were essential to the holiday season. These thick catalogs arrived in mailboxes in autumn, and children would spend hours studying every page. Dog-eared corners marked desired toys. Circled items with emphatic underlines communicated priorities to parents. These catalogs were wish lists in physical form, passed around and studied like sacred texts. Layaway was how many families afforded Christmas. Parents would put toys on layaway in October, making payments throughout the fall, then picking everything up in December. This required planning and discipline, but it meant families could give gifts they otherwise could not afford. Shopping was done in person, often at night after work. Malls stayed open late in December. The parking lots were packed. Families navigated crowds, waited in lines, and carried shopping bags from store to store. There was no tracking packages online. There was waiting in line at customer service, hoping the item was still in stock. Before we continue with the toys and traditions that made 1970s Christmas unforgettable, if you are enjoying this look back at how Americans really celebrated and want to explore more decades and moments in history, consider subscribing. There are so many more stories about how Americans built the traditions we still cherish today. The toys of Christmas in the 1970s defined childhoods and became cultural touchstones. The word toys says a lot about how the season felt then. Star Wars changed everything when it arrived in 1977. Suddenly, every child wanted action figures of Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, Princess Leia, and Han Solo. The demand was so overwhelming that Kenner could not produce enough toys for Christmas in 1977. Parents bought empty boxes with promises of figures to be delivered later. By 1978 and 1979, Star Wars toys dominated Christmas wish lists. Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars were essential gifts. Orange tracks could be assembled into elaborate racing courses, and there was the satisfying click of the launcher sending cars flying. Collections grew year after year, with new models appearing each Christmas. Easy Bake ovens let children actually bake tiny cakes using a light bulb. Light Bright let kids create glowing pictures by pushing colored pegs through black paper. Etch. A sketch demanded patience and skill to create drawings using two simple knobs. Board games were major gifts during the holidays. Operation, with its buzzing nose, Hungry Hippos and its frantic marble catching. Battleship with its satisfying pegs marking hits and misses. Connect 4, Sorry, and Life were all part of the rotation. These games were played by entire families throughout the holiday break. Atari arrived in 1977 and changed Christmas forever. The Atari 2600 brought video games into homes. Suddenly, families could play Pong, Combat, and later Space Invaders on their television sets. The console was expensive, a major gift that might be the only thing under the tree, but the experience of playing video games at home was revolutionary. Dolls remained popular. Baby Alive could eat and drink and needed diaper changes. Barbie continued her reign with dream houses, campers, and endless accessories. The Bionic Woman doll reflected the popular television show. Sleds and toboggans appeared under trees in snowy regions. Flexible flyer sleds were built to last generations. The promise of snow days and sledding hills made sleds exciting, even before the first snowfall. Christmas morning in the 1970s followed rituals that families repeated year after year. Children woke before dawn, often as early as 4 or 5 in the morning. Some families had rules about waiting until a certain hour. Others let the chaos begin whenever the first child stirred. The living room scene was overwhelming. Presents piled under and around the tree. Stockings bulged with small toys, candy, and an orange in the toe. Some families opened gifts one at a time, taking turns so everyone could watch. Others dove in at once, creating a frenzy of torn wrapping paper. Wrapping paper in the 1970s was heavy and often foil-based. Bows were reused year after year, carefully saved and flattened in boxes. The floor would be covered in paper and ribbons within an hour. Cleaning up was a major project, with parents stuffing trash bags while children played with new toys. Cameras captured the morning. Flash cubes popped on Kodak Instamatics. Polaroids spit out photos that developed before your eyes. Families posed in pajamas and robes, hair uncombed, genuine excitement on their faces. These photos fill albums and shoeboxes, documenting Christmases that the children in those pictures now remember with their own nostalgia. Christmas dinner was a major production. Extended families gathered, sometimes traveling significant distances. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins packed into houses not quite big enough for everyone. Folding tables extended dining rooms, and children sat at separate kids' tables. The food was traditional and abundant. Turkey or ham served as the centerpiece. Mashed potatoes, green bean casserole with those crunchy onions on top, Sweet potatoes topped with marshmallows and cranberry sauce still shaped like the can it came from. Warm rolls with butter and pies for dessert, including pumpkin, pecan, and apple. Cookbooks and handwritten recipe cards guided preparations that started days in advance. Mothers and grandmothers worked in kitchens while football games played on the television in the living room. The men gathered around the set, and children played with new toys on the floor. The drinks were distinctive. Eggnog, often spiked for adults. Wassail simmered in crock pots. Tab and Fresca for those watching their weight. Beer and highballs were common for the men after dinner. Television shaped Christmas in the 1970s in ways that made the country feel united. Holiday specials were events that families planned around. A Charlie Brown Christmas aired every year. Its jazz soundtrack and its message about commercialism resonated with audiences. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Frosty the Snowman, and How the Grinch Stole Christmas were required viewing. Specials appeared throughout the decade. The Year Without a Santa Claus introduced Heat Miser and Snow Miser. Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas became a cult classic. These specials aired once a year, and missing them meant waiting 12 months for another chance. Music was everywhere during the season. Perry Como, Andy Williams, Bing Crosby, and Nat King Cole provided the traditional soundtrack. Barbra Streisand's Christmas album became popular. The Carpenters released holiday music that got heavy radio play. Church attendance spiked at Christmas, even among families who rarely attended otherwise. Christmas Eve services were filled with candlelight and carols. The Christmas story was read from Luke. Children in bathrobes portrayed shepherds and wise men in pageants. For many families, church was an essential part of the holiday, connecting Christmas to its religious meaning. Communities celebrated together. Neighborhoods organized caroling parties with groups walking from house to house, singing songs and drinking hot chocolate. Some areas had luminaria lining the streets, paper bags weighted with sand and lit with candles. The effect on Christmas Eve was magical, entire streets glowing softly. The economy cast a shadow over Christmases in the 1970s, a shadow parents felt even if children did not. Inflation meant prices rising constantly, and the oil crisis made heating homes expensive and gasoline for holiday travel costly. Unemployment touched many families. Parents stretched budgets and worried about providing the Christmas their children expected, but the challenges made celebrations more meaningful. Handmade gifts were common and deeply valued. Families focused on being together rather than extravagant spending. The commercialization of Christmas was growing, but it had not yet overwhelmed personal and homemade traditions. What defined Christmas in America in the 1970s was a sense of tradition holding steady during turbulent times. The country had been through Vietnam and Watergate, and economic uncertainty lingered. Christmas became a refuge, a time when families could set aside worries and focus on each other. The decade saw Christmas becoming more commercial, with shopping starting earlier each year and advertising becoming more aggressive. But it also retained elements that would fade in later decades. Families still gathered for meals that could take days to prepare. Neighborhoods knew one another well enough to go caroling together. Children often believed in Santa well into elementary school because there was no internet to spoil the magic. For those who celebrated Christmas in the 1970s, the memories remained vivid. Anticipation built through December. There was the specific smell of real pine trees and the scent of incandescent light bulbs. The weight of packages wrapped in heavy paper. The sound of family gathering in houses that felt full in the best possible way. The 1970s were not perfect. The economy struggled. The country was divided. Families faced real challenges. But Christmas provided a pause, a reminder that some things remained constant. The lights went up. The trees were decorated. Families gathered. Children believed in magic. For those with memories of those remarkable holiday seasons, there is always more history to explore.